call it, building as learning aid, how the school building can be used as a learning medium for the children, setting up school management committees with involvement of parents and committee members, setting up Balsans, the students' parliament, wherein the children take the ownership of certain process in school. So yeah, so that was what I was engaged for like 2 years. Yeah.
Mm. So, did you have that pressure from the society and the need for money and all to sustain yourself? How did you tackle all that? And what are your future projects, of Travelers University?
Yes, yes. I mean that's a really important question. So yeah, so for the fellowship, I used to receive a stipend. So like that would take care of my expenses, and I even had like some good amount of savings after the journey, I mean, like, after the fellowship, so that all the travel was possible. And
Okay.
even like the initial, the first 1 year of Travelers University was also supported from through that savings that I had, and the other co-creators also had with them. Yeah, so yeah, regarding pressure of society, that has always been there, that is still there. But like one thing that has like really helped me to figure out a lot of things was analyzing my needs and wants.
Okay.
So the
Mm.
last 7 years has been like somehow related. I mean, like I've been constantly looking at like what my needs are, what my wants are, and so on. And like one realization, at least when I was at, like my material needs are limited. So that gives a lot more autonomy. Like if my material needs are limited, then I don't have to work too much to earn so much to meet those material needs. So
Mm.
that also leaves me with extra time uh, to explore like all the different interests that I have.
Okay.
So yeah, so this is something that has like helped me like in this process. Yeah.
Okay. So, and in the meantime, have you had communication with any school organization or authorities to actually execute your proposal or your plan of self education? Have anybody been receptive of your ideas? Any authorities?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So self-education was, as I said earlier, it was more of a personal exploration, and like at Travelers University, that is what we facilitate through the different programs that we conduct. So it is like so far we haven't like worked with institutions per se, but like through our own programs, that is what like a self-directed learning process is what we facilitate. Yeah.
Okay. And please do mention how can we be a part of Travelers University? Would you wish to
Yes,
join?
yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, so like, yeah, you asked about the future plans as well. So yeah, so it has been a very slow process for us, and with COVID, it became like even more slower. And yeah, so this is 1 year that we were quite ambitious about in terms of launching long-term programs and fellowships
Okay.
and so on. Yeah, but like yeah, and we know the reality, like COVID happened, and like yeah, so the Cycle Yatra in January was the last yatra that we organized. But like for the next 1 year, what we are largely seeing, like at least what we're seeing at the moment, is we ourselves traveling and documenting stories and documenting various knowledge systems. So one pet project for the next 1 year is to document eco-conscious livelihoods, or livelihoods we call it, because these are livelihoods that help makes one feel alive from within. So and also like planets, these are like planet centric eco-conscious livelihoods that takes care of the planet and that heals the planet. So yeah, so the basic idea over here is that so one like usually there's this narrative that there is no alternative, or there are one gets into like very limited kinds of jobs and or work, or whether it be like engineering or lawyer or like teaching or like anything, because these are like more relatable. There are more people from your own friend circles or people from your own families that who are into these jobs or who are into these professions or occasions. But if we start talking about something like, say, butterfly conservation, that is scary, right? Because that story is not relatable. You don't know anyone who's doing conservation. So yeah, so one idea of this project is to bring stories that people can relate with, stories of individuals who have pursued this, whom they can relate with, and also at the same time like document the livelihood in itself, the knowledge, skill, and mindset that is required to pursue this vocation. So that is like one pet project that we have for the next year. Yeah. And we also plan to launch the 52 Parinde program, which was Rahul's gap year project, as a fellowship, like as a fellowship. So that would be a 4 months long fellowship, wherein like the fellow is also financially supported, and then they will be documenting stories of individuals who design their own paths, part of the fellowship program. So yeah, so these are like two projects that we are looking at for the next 1 year. Yeah. And for more people to join, yes, we are looking at the options of, like how safe travel can be, and accordingly, and only accordingly host learning journeys, like group learning journeys. But fellowships are open, like the fellowship will be open to people to apply and join and be part of it. Yes. Yeah. And at the same time, so like another thing is, like as I said already, like we support individuals also who wish to like pursue their interest by traveling. So if there is a particular domain that you are looking at where you want to build your understanding or skills, or like something that you're passionate about, so yeah, so that is something that we can like always do. Like it is not restricted to a particular, like a course per se, or a program per se. Yeah. So,
Is that part of the Design Your Own internship program that you guys are offering? Is that the
yes,
same thing?
yeah, all these are related, because like say the different people would have different needs. So very recently we had someone like approaching us for an internship, and it was a COVID period. So yeah, and like so it didn't happen the way we wanted to, in the sense that like you actually explore, and you actually go out and travel and meet with people and then pursue your internship. But we worked at something different, in the sense that so whatever like internships that we offer, it's not for people to do the work that we want them to do, but for them to explore what they want to explore. So one of the intern that we had recently, so she wanted to explore alternative education. So like we supported her in designing her own internship, and yeah, so that kind of hand holding we do. So self-design internship is related to this idea, supporting a travel learner in facilitating, like in designing their own journey. So that is like a related idea. Supporting someone to design their own gap year project is again a related idea. So yeah. So we really encourage people to take a year on. So gap year is not a year off, but a year on that you take for yourself, because these experiences remain, these learnings always remain. So yeah.
Hi, Ashik. This is Janaki. Okay, I'm a faculty in the department. Yeah, it was great listening to you, and I felt it was a continuity of many such dialogues that have taken place in Kerala over a long period of time. You're very young. You're just 27, I gather. Yes, is that so?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's nice to see. It's always heartening to see the new voices coming in the same field. So as a person who's from Thrissur, I was just wondering whether, are you networking with the groups in Thrissur who are working in this area? There are many groups I know who are working within the area of environmental sustainability. You know, there are so many different, into organic farming.
Yes.
I mean, so many different allied areas. So when you were talking about your own experiments in education through traveling, etc., I was just reminded of a small initiative that happened in Kerala almost 30 years back in Wayanad, called Kanavu.
Yes.
So I hope you're documenting that particular experiment and initiative that took place, because many things, I mean, that was our first brush with concrete experiment in alternate education in Kerala. So, and I think now it no longer exists, because that particular generation has gone ahead and done, they're doing their own work. That Kanavu was actually a setup made for the tribal children in Wayanad. by KJ Baby and Shirley. So have you been in touch with those groups? Then there's another brilliant experiment about what we heard was in Attapadi by
Sarang.
what's Sarang. Yes, exactly, Sarang. So are you documenting this histories also as a part of your Travelers University project?
Yeah.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to know
So
whether.
so to answer that, so Kanava and like Sarang, they're like pioneers like in this domain,
Yes,
and
absolutely,
their work
absolutely.
has
Yeah.
been documented at large, like by so many different people already. And so like what we are attempting is to bring out the new stories, the stories that are not documented yet or that are not available to people yet. Yes. Yeah. So I know about these initiatives.
but but I feel you, since you are documenting, I think that it should be a part. It should be a part of the histories that you are. I just visited your website, and I felt that if you could record it somewhere there also, it would be a great, resource for many people when they approach your website to see the kind of continuity that's taking place. So that would be a great help for those who are looking for such an alternate, and their sustainability. What happens to these, because we are used to so many experiments which after a little while, but the mainstream education remains the same. It doesn't change. These experiments take place on the margins. But how is it possible? That's what I wanted to ask you, since you have been working with schools and also doing your own kind of research and exploration. Is there any way in which these two can meet somewhere, or do they go in a parallel line? Because there will be researchers and this inquiry taking place on one side, but the mainstream education goes on the same way as it was used to be. And since you people are working in the area of education, how do you think? What can I ask you about some reflections on the new education policy? I'm sure you people must have spent some time looking at it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Since you
Sure.
are working in the area of education, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ashik.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the question. And yes. Yeah. So one thing, like we don't see. So one thing, what one has to like really observe is that the mainstream school education system, that it has been there for like the past 400 years, and these little smaller experiments that are happening, and like these are like 30 years or 40 years, very minuscule compared to what has happened, like what has been happening like in the mainstream setup. But still, like I don't see like these both having their own ways, or running parallel ways. I definitely see the possibilities of like integration and learning from each other, and so on. So which is also why we are also, because like ever since we hosted the Nila Yatra particularly, like we have had inquiries from different institutions asking us to host something similar for their school children and so on, because they wanted more experiential and so on. Yeah. But then like this year was again, like, we were supposed to work with a few institutions like colleges and schools, but like as we all know, the COVID happened and like it didn't really take off. But this is something that we are definitely looking at, and we want to and yeah, we want to work on this front. Yes. And regarding the question that you asked about Thrissur, like about the initiatives in Thrissur, so yeah, as I mentioned earlier again, so like something that I'm trying to build slowly, gradually with a few friends whom I'm in touch with here, is to build is to set up some kind of a learning city initiative, to look at Thrissur as a learning city. Not just Thrissur, like any city can be, this model can be brought. And so like I am largely inspired by the Learning City initiative in Udaipur, and the work of Blue Ribbon Movement in Mumbai, where they engage with the communities and bring a lot of community learning into picture. Uh, yeah, so one of the ideas of Learning City Thrissur is to meet with different people, different organizations that are working on a lot of like fundamental topics. By fundamental, I mean learning, waste management, urban farming, organic farming, local livelihoods that are like akin to the shore, the local history, and so on. So yeah, so that is something that is very much in work, and like it's a really slow process, but slowly building towards it. Yeah. And regarding the new education policy, so yeah, like I mean, there are a lot of like contradicting thoughts that I have regarding that. So, but still, like one, if I may talk about only the positive, like I can share that it does speak about the importance of experiential learning and how that should be integrated into our learning institutions. So that is something that I'm hopeful about, because like a lot of institutions, they are bound by the framework that one has, like that say whether it be the national curriculum framework or like the new education policy that has come up. But like if within these, like even in NCF, like a lot it talks a lot about like experiential learning, and but there is still a gap, and there's also why like a lot of there are so many NGOs and social organizations working in India on education, particularly to bridge these gaps, to address the things that are missed out. So yeah, so let all these spaces be there, like all these spaces allow for a lot of different exploration, and let more initiatives come up, and yeah, that is what I would like to see. Yeah.
Thank you, Ashik, for a very, very patient response, because I packed 3 or 4 questions into my question. So I'm really thrilled to hear you say this. And I think with youngsters like you in today's scenario, I'm not all that hopeless, okay, of the current political scenario. So thank you for being a kind of a sign of hope, even when it is so dismal in very many aspects. And I'm glad you pointed out the possibilities rather than only the negatives in the new policy. That shows a very open mind too. So thank you, all power to you and to the people who follow in your path. Okay, thank you, Ashik. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ashik, before we wind
There's
up,
a question in the chat, so like should we address that first?
Yes, there is a very interesting question in the chat. Please do.
Is there a
Ashik,
yeah, sure. Yeah.
yeah. Well, you say something, yes? Yeah, just a couple of things before we wind up. Taking on from where Janaki left it about the sustainability of initiatives. Okay, Kanavu, I believe, is now considered a failure. I don't know if it functions now as it. There is some history behind this. In the 60s in Mexico, a group of teachers and students walked out of their universities and set up a separate university. I think it was called Guadalajara, Guadalajara in Mexico. And that was, I think, one of the first attempts to work in education in a parallel way. So the problem with such initiatives is that they don't take on the mainstream head on. Whereas in Brazil, when Paulo Freire started his initiatives in education, that is not just a parallel initiative. It was trying to attack the mainstream, and although it failed, as other political initiatives in South America fail, they can be revived again. There's a possibility of the initiative being taken up again. And again, it's a kind of an ongoing guerrilla warfare against the mainstream. Okay, even if it doesn't win, somebody said, no revolution ever fails. So similarly, it's only a setback, but it will come back again. So I think you should also look at the sustainability of initiatives, whether they can sustain themselves by continuously chipping away at the mainstream. Yeah, only then it can survive. If you function as a cult, you can exist outside the mainstream as a cult. There are many such cults. Yeah. Cults do not disturb the mainstream. I think this must be seriously addressed. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to point out. We just run along parallel lines. This goes on. So this is exactly what Sharif pointed out, that I was also trying to articulate. Thank you, Sharif, for that. Yeah. Yes, Ashik.
Yes, like very true and like very valid. But again, and you yourself pointed out the thing that like no revolution is a failed revolution, and yeah, so like I don't see these as like failures, but as like stepping stones for us to pursue things ahead, because like at least for me, like things have been like like exploration to an extent has been quite easy because of what a lot other people have done in the past. So like for example, Shikshantar, which is in Udaipur. So Manish Jain and Vidhi Jain. So Manish Jain was working with, like, he worked with the UNESCO, the World Bank, and so on. And then like there was this point where he felt that like he wasn't doing anything meaningful, and then came back to India. He he along with his partner, like both of them traveled across India for a year, and that is how they met. But and it was after which they set up this initiative called Shikshantar in Udaipur, a space to again reimagine education and bring back the traditional knowledge systems and so on. And this is a 21-year-old initiative now, and yeah, and it is supporting a lot of people in their it has supported a lot of people in their journeys. So part of the same family is the Swaraj University in Udaipur again, so which was set up like 10 years ago, wherein so that is a space to facilitate self-directed learning. So what they offer is a 2-year-long program wherein the learner, they design their own learning for 2 years, and this is a program for adults like 16 plus and so on. And wherein yeah, so they also, and there are no students and teachers over there, only Khojis and facilitators. Koji is in the sense of like one who seeks for knowledge, one who seeks for learning. Yeah, so these have been like really successful programs, and like many of the Kojis, they have set up their own initiatives later on. Also happy to say that like so Rahul was also Koji from the 4th batch of Swaraj University. So wherein like like at the end of 2 years you don't develop a degree certificate, but then you develop a portfolio for yourself, and like with the kind of work and experience that you engage in. Yeah, and similarly there are so many different initiatives. So like so Indian Multiversity Alliance is like one such network which Travelers University is also part of. Vikalp Sangam is another initiative or network, wherein like which is a network of alternatives in all different domains, from all different domains, whether it be politics, education, ecology, and like livelihoods and many more. So Vikalp Sangam is bringing out a lot of stories from the grassroots, and making them available on their platform. And yeah, and they Vikalp Sangam also hosts these confluences wherein like most dialogues can happen, and we look at the possibilities of collaborations, and connecting and working together, because as we might like, or as like all of us might agree already, like none of this work can be done in isolation, or none of this should be done in isolation. We need more people coming together, having a collective vision, and working together, basically co-creating together. So yeah, so that is what the attempt is. That is definitely what the attempt is. Yeah, so yes. Okay, I'll take this question in the chat now. Is there any woman in your journey life who influenced you in a better way? How you feel about the role and position of women in various culture, and you have any strange or special experiences regarding this? Okay, that is a tricky question. But like, okay, but I can surely say that there are so many people whom I have been inspired by, women travelers whom I've been inspired by. So like one such person is Deepa. So she has been like out on the road for the last 10 years, like ever since she quit her corporate job, and she's one of our facilitators for the transition from tourist to traveler workshop too. So she has like extensively backpacked across the world, and done a lot of these like moneyless, gadgetless cycle yatras, like in the country, like and then these are like month-long pursuits, like in one whole month. At times traveling alone, like at times traveling with like maybe just like one person, but extra and not more. Yeah, so like, yeah, so Deepa is an inspiration, and there are many women travelers. Yeah, and one question that like thought like would come up today was regarding the privilege factor that is in there for like for men who travel. Yeah, but then but I even if it is that it came up, like I'll still address that. So yeah, so there is definitely a privilege factor like when it comes to men for easy access to a lot of things, like accessibility and safety and so on. But at the same time, there are so many people who that question was about to come. Yeah, but there are so many people who have done it already and who are doing it even now. So even if you look at the travelogue section of Travelers University, the blog that we have, it's mostly like women who have shared their journeys, like who have written about their journey. So recently we had someone named Anjali, who like from Bangalore, who who shared her experience, who shared a gap year experience on our platform. So yeah, so she took a gap year after her undergrads, and phenomenal, like highly inspiring journey that she has had. So yeah, so once what I believe is like if there are people to handhold them, like support and them, like not in anyone, like irrespective of gender, like it is possible, is what I think. Is like not what I think is it is possible. What I like that's what I've observed from my own experiences. Yes, yeah, yeah. And like for Nila Yatra, like except for like one participant, all the participants we had like were female participants, and in almost like all the other program we have had a like a very like equal number, yeah, an equal percentage of like both like men and women joining. So yeah, yeah. Oh, please don't call sir. You can call me by my name, Ashik. Yeah. This is something else, like one has to decolonize oneself with calling sir and ma'am and everything. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Any
more
other
questions? Ashik, I just wanted to ask you about sustainable traveling. So can you talk more on sustainable travel? Because we these days have everything available in travel sizes, from toothpaste to beverages. We have everything in travel size. So how do you manage all these plastic waste? What is Travelers University's plans?
Yes, like really important question. So yeah, so when it comes to learning journeys, like what we like very consciously tell the participants before they join, like we send out those mails saying like please don't bring any like sachet size items. Like just bring like, just because it's for 7 days, don't bring like any sachets or like small tubes or like something like that. Like bring whatever that you use at your own home, because there's already a lot of like waste that is there around, and like using more sachet sized, like travel sized uh, items that only increases the waste. And yeah, so like something that like we the co-creators of Travelers University, what we practice in our own journeys is that since we keep moving from place to place, there is definitely a tendency to generate a lot more waste than like someone who is staying in this one place alone. So say for let me take the example of like traveling through a train and like having food. So a lot of single-use items are like one might use, one might consume. So what I do is like I always carry a dabba with me, and like I carry my own spoon and mug and glass with me all the time. So what I do in the trains, I go to the pantry car and like get my dabba filled from there, so that I don't use single waste, I mean single use item, the food package that comes in. And there is really good food that is available at the stations as well. So at times we get food from the stations, and many times like so again, like to get my coffee, like I use my own mug, like in the trains. So many times the experience also that they have provided, they give an extra coffee because because of this. Yeah, so that is like some of the practice that we we have. So like carrying a bottle all the time and getting it filled, and not buying any plastic water bottle, mineral water bottles. So like say if one is traveling in a city, like what I do, like if the water that I'm carrying is over, I might go to a bank or a hotel and get it filled. All every banks have, I mean, they got like dispensers, water dispensers. Every malls have like water dispensers. So there are so many public areas where there are like water dispensers. So we fill the bottle from there if at all there's a need. Yeah. So the idea is not to use any single-use items. So like all the basic cutlery and stuff we carry by ourselves. Yeah. So that is one. Way we approach that. And as I mentioned earlier, so the idea is also about looking at like what one's needs really are, and then behave accordingly. So not a bit connected to this, I mean related to this, like so as like everything that I wanted like fit into a backpack, like all the things that was at home like kind of became redundant. And yeah, so all the experience in itself has like helped see like, okay, what should I consume and what should I not. And that has definitely helped to travel in a more conscious manner. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What about your finance? How do you raise funds for all these programs? So the learning journeys are self-funded. So there's a cost attached to it. So the participants fund it by themselves. And yeah, but like in the past 1.5 years, like we have offered a lot of scholarships as well. So wherein like we put in the money to support individuals. So again, like something else that like we have noticed is that or at least kind of people who have reached out to us so far, uh, uh, like so we have a registration form, like in which people register, wherein we ask in detail about themselves and like why they would like to be part of such a journey and so on. And yeah, so something that we have observed is people who are like really passionate about such journeys, and like people whom such journeys would really benefit, they were not in a capacity to pay. So we have always like subsidized. So far we have like we did that with our own little savings that we had. But yeah, so that's about the learning journeys. But when it comes to the travel learner program, there is there is no money exchange at all. It is the like we support the people, like again in the spirit of gift, because like we have been supported by a lot of people in our journeys. So yeah, there is no monetary exchange between Travelers University and the travel learner, like in the travel learner program. And the fellowship that we would want to bring in the coming year, the 52 per day fellowship, as I mentioned. So for that we want to support the fellow, like yeah. So that will be a funded program. So we are looking at like a few funders, like who would be interested in supporting such initiatives. So that is one. Our finance, like as I said, like the first 1.5 years, it has been about like through our own little savings that we had. And but also to mention like very importantly about the power of gift, because like in the last 2.5 years, like I have never had to pay for my accommodation like anywhere in the country. So people have been like so supportive that they hosted me at their homes, and these were the people whom I was meeting for the very first time in my life, like connected through other known people and so on, mutual friends and so on. So because they really believe in the idea, so people have been really supportive. So like one in terms of accommodation, but in a lot other terms, say like so we have attended programs offered by like other organizations in this larger ecosystem that we are part of, at no cost. So that is kind of an exchange that we do, like a learning exchange that we keep doing within the initiatives or the organizations within this network of whether like Indian Multiversities Alliance or whether Vikalp Sangam. So yeah, so that is so this power of gift and like fee exchange, and that is what has supported our learnings at large. So yeah, I can say about that. Yeah.
Ashik, as part of your, this venture, where does, incorporating mental health awareness in, early curriculum come into picture? Because I did read about it in your intro on the website. But is that something that you're aiming for the future? Because we know what has been happening. We have counselors at schools, but I don't think, many students have benefited from it because they don't know how to communicate even. So how would that awareness be risen?
Yes. That is something that is really important. And so like I have a lot of like different kinds of thoughts into it. Like it's here and there, it's all over the place. But like one thing I can say for myself is that uh, like I have had a lot of anxiety issues, and like ever since travel happened, like that has uh, eased a lot. I mean, like, that has come down a lot, because like a lot of people that I meet on this journey, and like there is room for open conversations, and like it is conversations that have helped me, and like new experience that have helped me. But having said that, at the same time, a lot of experiences, travel experiences particularly, have been highly disturbing as well. Um, like for example, so this was during the 100 days of travel, and it was a long journey, like more than 26 hours. And yeah, and I always travel sleeper class, almost always. And so like in the same compartment there was another family who was traveling, father, mother, and two children. And like throughout the entire period of the journey, like I noticed that like the parents, the father and mother, they were not having food. All the food that they bought was like for their children, and that was just like one packet of food, and like that was shared by both the kids. And yeah, so this was a reality, this was their reality. And like so they might be people who are like, they would have been people who are leaving their native villages, going to a city in search of work, in search of a better livelihood, and so on. Yeah, so that really disturbed me. And I stopped taking food, like I stopped eating while traveling, like whenever, like and that continued for a very long period, like for about a month. I wouldn't eat anything while traveling. So it has so at certain times there are certain experience that uh, disturbs you in itself, certain travel experience. But at the same time, there are other experience that help you be at ease, uh, yeah, help you be in the flow. And yeah, so that is definitely there. And like and also like to maybe trying to directly address what you asked. um so so one other pattern that we have noticed with the kind of people who are joining for our programs is that they are tired of, or they were tired of their uh, work and life, that they were living in a very mainstream world. Um, so we have had a lot of job walkouts joining our programs. We have had a lot of people after attending our programs quitting their jobs, and searching for like, meaning in life, and like to actually explore what their real interests were. So that is one way we measure the success of a program, like looking at how many people who quit their jobs or quit their studies after traveling with us. So yeah, so so that is also an important question to address. And something else that comes to my mind, which was shared by a friend some time ago. uh, so this friend was sharing about another friend of theirs, who would stand under um, like the shower for like 30 minutes a day, like after work, just because like that those were the only 30 minutes that they had in control of their, when it came to their own life. And like that's only 30 minutes that they were happy about. And so look at the ecological impact of this as well. Like, so there is definitely like you aren't satisfied with the kind of life you're leading. And the same way it also has an ecological impact, because you're like wasting a lot of resources, like just because like one is not really fitting into the system. So yeah, it is a multifaceted issue. um, yeah yeah, and then the same narrative that which I started today's conversation with regarding the competition. Like we are constantly being told that like there aren't enough resources and there aren't enough opportunities, that one has to actually gather them, accumulate them, and be quite aggressive about it, right? So this, like, so if at its dysfunctional state, like it leads to, it very much leads to resource exhaustion. It very much leads to overconsumption of resources, because in the name of competition, like when you tend to believe that there aren't enough, and then one has to gather and accumulate, you tend to accumulate more than what you actually need. And so this has a direct, so this individual or this personal issue or this personal challenge has a direct connect with the global challenges of resource exhaustion and climate change and global warming that is happening. So yeah, because it's not just like one individual, there are like millions of such individuals who are there. So yeah.
I hope like we can, once we reopen classes, we can have a workshop. If your firm is like, if you're open to conducting it for us, I think that would be a very, interesting
Definitely.
couple of days.
Yes, we would love to. Yeah.
Yeah, we can think of that definitely.
Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts, or reflections that you would like, not questions, like something that you would like to share, like with this group? Any other thoughts that are coming up that's really alive within you at the moment?
Yes. Any more questions? If not, I think Ashik, we can wind up then.
Sure, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there are more unasked questions, but you can always reach out to Ashik and connect with Travelers University over social media, definitely.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you very much, Ashik, for joining us and sharing your experiences of travel and your insights from travel as well with us. We enjoyed listening to your travel sessions and had a very productive time. Hope you did too.
Yes.
It is the need of the time that we hold hands, reach out to new people, embrace new cultures. Yes, it was a pleasure listening to you, Ashik. Thank you once again for joining us, and our best wishes for you and Travelers University. Looking forward for more equally interesting interactions with Travelers University. Teachers and students of the department, thank you for your time, your patient listening, and your active discussion that you generated. Thank you, everyone. We shall meet again next week.
Thank you, Ashik, for that very entertaining as well as enlightening session. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Asha. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here, and also thank you for like inviting me to the space, like with the students of University of Calicut English Literature Department. Also, thanks to Niyati who first invited me to the space. So thanks to her.
Yes, Niyati, thank you for introducing Ashik. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
See you.
Yes, and I have typed down my email ID and the website of Travelers University, so you can reach out anytime. Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you. Bye. Thanks a lot.
See you, Ashik. Thank you.